Hi everybody, it's Thomas here from thomasfitzgeraldphotography.com. Today I want to give you a quick look at using X-Transformer and Lightroom for processing Fuji files. Now, I have a guide out about this, and what I'm going to be showing you is basically some of the workflow that I go through in my guide. I go into it in more detail in the guide, but if you want to kind of get an idea of what's in it, this will give you a good overview. And if you have the guide already, this will let you see how this actually works. So if you're having any issues understanding it, just by me going through it, you might get a better idea. Okay, so first off, just to let you know what I've done so far is I have, obviously I've shot some pictures and I'm here in Lightroom, and I've already imported them into Lightroom, just straight up, haven't done anything else. So what I want to do is, in this case, I am going to convert all of the images. I'm not going to go through and rate them first, although I have gone through a few and just to have a look and maybe tweak a few things here and there. But yeah, no, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert all these and then import them back in to Lightroom. Okay, so first things first, what I need to do is, when you're using X-Transformer, the very first thing you need to do is set the settings in X-Transformer, because as soon as you add files to it, it'll start processing. You don't add them and then hit go or anything like that. It's just as soon as you add files to it, it'll start processing off by itself. So if I step over to it here, what I've done is I've already set my settings. This corresponds to what I have in the guide as recipe 1. If you have the guide, you'll know I have a number of recipes in it for various different settings and combinations of settings. In this case, I'm going with what I have called recipe 1, which is basically no sharpening in X-Transformer, and I'm going to do all my sharpening in Lightroom. I do have a low level of color noise reduction in X-Transformer because I just think that's a bit easier. It works a bit better. Lens corrections, I'm going to include them as DNG metadata. You can actually apply them to the image here. It doesn't really matter. I kind of prefer them as metadata, but either way it doesn't really make that much difference. One of the advantages of this is it's a teeny bit quicker. It's not a huge difference, so it doesn't really make that much of a big deal. In here, these are my settings. Again, I covered these on the guide, so I'm not going to go through them. Just a couple of things. There's a few things I didn't really talk about in the guide. Here we have the JPEG preview, and that basically is just what size the preview is. That's going to get overwritten by Lightroom, so it doesn't really matter. And then this option here, preserve original file date. What that does is it copies it. Basically, when you use X-Transformer, it's going to update the date of the file because to be created with when it's doing the conversion. This is just the file data. It's not the actual capture data, so it only affects the actual file. You will still have the captured date and time preserved in the image. So again, this doesn't make a huge deal. You can turn it on if you want. It doesn't bother me either way. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. File naming, here I've added a name just to say that I'm using recipe 1, just so I can find it later, just to make it a bit easier. And then save to folder, I have subfolder with the originals, and then I've given the name of the folder. You can use a separate folder, however, if you're on a Mac, this is actually not working properly in the current beta, so that's why I'm doing it this way. Okay, so if I go back here to Lightroom for a second, what I need to do is find my images. So the quickest way to do that would be to right click on it and go show in Finder. Okay, which I have already done. So if I switch over to the Finder, I have them here, and again, the quickest way to select all your raw files is just to go view by kind or sort by kind. I have a few other images in here that are not Fuji files because I was importing by date, and don't ask. We'll skip over the long boring explanation. So what I've done is I've selected all the RAF files, which is what I want for this purposes. So let me just bring everything up here so we can see what we're doing. And then all you need to do is drop these onto this folder. So literally just select it and drop them over. Okay, and that's going to start processing. This will take a bit of time, and because that would actually be kind of boring, I'm just going to basically edit the video. So I'll skip right to the end, because otherwise you're going to be very, very bored. Okay, and it looks like it's finished, so the next thing we want to do is get the files back into Lightroom. So I'm going to switch back to Lightroom. This is actually pretty easy, although it has a few people have written to me, they're kind of a bit confused about this section, so I'm just going to quickly run you through it. So what I need to do is I need to go to the folder where these are, so if I just go to folder in library, because I am currently on the previous import, which I do not want. Okay, so what you need to do is to synchronize the folder. So if I hover over this, right click on it and go synchronize folder, what this does is this basically scans the folder for any new files. It'll also scan for metadata updates and things like that, but in this case we want to bring in the new files because it's saved as a subfolder, so it will actually scan subfolders as well. So also I want to show the import dialog before importing, because what I want to do is, let me just open this and I'll explain. And when I imported these the last time, I had a preset applied which was to set it to previous standard, but because I've told it to basically take the previous settings, I don't need to do that, so I need to set that to none. When you do the synchronize folder, if you don't show the import window, it basically applies whatever your previous settings were, so that's why I needed to apply that. But other than that, that's all we need to do. I am going to do one other thing while I'm here, is I'm going to add it to a collection, and I'm just going to call this XP2 because it's my X Pro 2 minute, because that's where I was, and XT for X-Transformed. Just click create. I'm just going to do that because it just makes it a bit easier to find them later. Okay, so that's all good. I won't bother applying keywords or anything like that for the moment, and just hit import. So this is going to import these now, and I'm just going to go back to the current import just so we can see them. Just make sure everything's going okay. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to quickly go through some of the files. Also in my guide, what I pointed out is that when you process them using X-Transformer, you can actually apply different levels of sharpening because the different in the demosaicing. Now that's interesting, that did not keep my Provia. So, I may have done something wrong there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is I have a bunch of presets that come with the guide too, so if you have the guide you will have these, and in this case I use recipe 1, so I'm going to go sharpen fine. Let's just see what that looks like. Might be a bit too much, but I can turn it back down if it is. No, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Okay. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm going to synchronize the bits that I need to do, seeing as that didn't quite work. Don't need that. And I'm going to apply the same sharpening to everything, and noise reduction and calibration. I did something wrong there, that was my fault. But yeah, I'm just going to hit synchronize, so this should apply the Provia profile to everything and my recipe for sharpening. Okay, synchronize. That's just going to apply to everything. Okay, so that's done, so we don't need to worry about that. And now I can set about editing the images and just deselect them first. Okay, so let's see this one. I'm just checking to make sure the sharpening is copied across. Yep, it has. It's grand. That's actually a bit much. I might turn that back down a bit, or try one of my other ones. I'm happy with that. So now I can set about just editing my images to whatever way I want. I'm not going to go too much into this at the moment. Just do a little gradient on the sky here. Maybe a bit of vignette, and just to make it a bit interesting. Actually, that's probably too much of a vignette. I'm just going to dot that back a bit. Okay, like that. Just one other thing that causes a bit of confusion sometimes is this little warning here. I know a lot of people when if you're working with Fuji files, they're wondering why don't they have a profile for the lens. Well, it's actually the metadata. The lens profile is included in the metadata, so in that case you don't enable profile corrections. It's actually applied automatically, and that's when you see this little information leaflet. See, and if you press the I, you can see what's come up. Now, when you're using X-Transformer, that's why you should apply it as metadata, because it just passes that information through into the DNG file, and you will see it in Lightroom like that. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at a few other images. Actually, I'm going to go back to the library module. Okay, and I actually did some bracketed images so I can make a HDR, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to select these three images and photo merge, HDR. Now I don't need to have that on medium. I think low will do fine for the deghosting. There was actually nothing really moving in the frame, but there might have been slight little movement in the leaves of the trees, so that's why I'm just going to leave it on low. That looks fine. I don't mind if it's too bright at the moment, but that's just a preview. We'll work with that once we merge it. I have a few other ones here, and what I can do is I can actually set these merging without bringing up the interface. So I just go photo merge, and if you hold down the shift key and hit HDR, it'll go ahead and do it without bringing up the window. So again, I can do it for these three as well. So photo merge, HDR. Lightroom starts to get a bit bogged down when you do this, so I'm not going to do any more for the moment. I did, as you can see, bracket lots of the rest of the shots. Actually, I want to see how this one turns out, so I'm just going to do this as well. Again, photo merge, HDR. I'm just going to have a quick look at some other shots while that's doing that. If I look up here, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 merge operations going on, as well as building previews, so it's Lightroom slowed down a bit. Okay, so let's just jump into the develop and see what we can do with this. We're bringing down the exposure because it doesn't need to be that high. Maybe a bit of medium contrast. Even at that straight up, it's much better. I'm just going to add a bit of clarity. Just a little bit, we don't need too much. And tiny bit, oh, too much. A tiny bit of vignette. Okay, that's that good, I like that. So we'll just mark that, and then if I can find the other one. Okay, which is this one. Okay, and what we'll do here is we'll just copy the settings from the last one. That's probably too dark now, so I'll just brighten that back up. And we will straighten it. I'm just checking to see that there's no major ghosting on the trees, as can sometimes happen, but that looks fine to me. As you can see, well, you might not be able to see it too much from the video here, but you can see the difference. If you're used to Fuji files, you'll know that that foliage will be gone to crap in the normal Lightroom operation, and X-Transformer has solved that problem. It's areas like this that you'll see the difference the most. I will attempt to show you it properly in a minute. Okay, there's one other thing I want to show you, and that is I did something a little cheeky when I was shooting these. I was planning to try and make a panorama of the castle here, but I was also shooting bracketed, so we're going to attempt to make a HDR panorama. So first of all, what I need to do is merge all the HDR images. So again, we do our trick here where I'm happy with the settings, so I just hold down it, and I'm just making note of the keyboard shortcut as well. It's Control-Shift-H, so merge the first ones. And I'm working back from the new images here so I can find the pairs. So again, the next one, so Control-Shift-H. Okay, so that's finished creating the HDR file. So now what we need to do is merge those into a panorama. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. I probably should have checked this first. Okay, so what we need to do is look for the HDR ones. So okay, now we go photo merge panorama. Okay, that's not working great. Let's try perspective. Okay, it's not great. It wasn't really wide enough, but we're going to merge it anyway. It's more out of just to see if this will work than anything. Switch to the develop module. That's actually not bad. As an image, I'm going to take in the top of this. We can actually fix this in Photoshop, so get a bit of this guy in. Okay, there's a few problems with this, so we're not going to spend much time on this. You can see there's bad ghosting there, and that was, I should have checked my images a bit better, but you get the idea. So I just wanted to show you that it could be done. You can actually make a panorama from bracketed images. If you want to fix this in Photoshop, all you do is bring it into Photoshop and use content aware fill, and it'll more than likely fill in that sky. Or you could just crop it out, which on hindsight is probably the easier thing to do. Like so. Yeah, that's just that's a lot quicker. But yeah, so you get the idea. And there's one more thing I want to show before I finish up. And let me just find an image to demonstrate this on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this to my quick collection for a second. And now I am going to go to folder and library, and then So what I'm doing here is I am comparing the X-Transformed one with the actual raw. Now, it might seem that there's not a huge difference, and certainly it can be a bit subtle, but if you look kind of up around this area, you can see there's kind of a much more mushy detail, whereas your leaves are more defined, and whereas here it's just you've got this weird edge artifacting. Again, it's subtle when you're viewing it close up like this. However, when you're viewing the whole image, it actually makes a big difference. So I think anyway, I mean, everybody kind of has their own different opinions on this. Some people see it and some people don't. I guess in some ways it's kind of like that blue dress thing. See, you're not going to see this in the video too easily, but I'm going to zoom into 2:1. I would not normally recommend this. The only reason I'm doing it 2:1 is so you can see it on the video a bit clearer. I know people give it, oh, you're extreme pixel peeping and nobody ever views their images like this, blah blah blah. Yes, you're absolutely right. Again, the only reason I'm doing this is because you're seeing it small in the video, and even at this you probably won't be able to make the difference out, but I'm going to switch between them anyway. So DNG, RAF, DNG, RAF. As you can see, the RAF is much kind of, it's almost like the color information has been blurred in it. Okay, and if I switch back to the develop module, okay, and I go to my DNG first, right? Now I have applied one of my recipes here. It was actually one of the lower down ones, but you can crank the sharpening up on this quite a bit. And oh, let me zoom back to 1:1. You don't want to go too far. Let me just bring this. Let me just go nuts. So I'll bring it up as far as 50. Okay, and you're starting to see some exaggeration in noise, but it's not bad. Now if I go over to the raw file and I crank that up to 50, you see straight away it's gone to crap. You've got all this weird pattern noise going on here, which I've heard lots of different descriptions for. Somebody called it bacteria, which I thought was an interesting name for it. Yeah, so there's the difference. Obviously when you add this amount of sharpening to anything, you're going to get some degree of noise in it, so that's perfectly normal. But this is the problem with X-Trans and Lightroom. You're probably not going to make this out too well in the video unless you zoom in. I'm going to post this to YouTube in 4K, so you should be able to see it. But anyway, so that's that. And so yeah, so that's basically using X-Transformer from start to finish. I'm going to go off now and process the rest of these images, and I will share them online later. And okay, so I hope this has been useful for you and it's provided you with some useful information, and you've got a better look at how X-Transformer works and the difference in and why I use it and why I think it's good. It's not for everybody. Some people don't see it and don't. For that's the case, just keep using it the way you have, and what works for you is all that matters. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have started a Patreon page. So if you want to support this and see more videos like this, you can sign up to my Patreon page. For a small subscription, you can help me make more videos like this and keep the lights on, as it were. Otherwise, just subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you haven't seen it already, check out my X-Transformer guide. X-Transformer is still in beta, so the guide is in beta as well until that is finished. So I've been updating it. I have 2 updates to it already, and it's available on my store, and the link will be in the description below. Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you for watching this fairly long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again soon.